Hello everyone, we are going to discuss Odette, one of the characters who will be released in patch 7.0. She is a 5-star Cryo Sword character who fill the role as a sub-DPS and buffer, essentially a premium support for both Stellar-Conduct and Stellar-Swirl teams. Despite that, she can still be played as an on-field Stellar DPS, even though Odette will more frequently be utilized as a premium off-field support for your Stellar teams. When Cryo meets Electro, it triggers Superconduct reaction. However, if you have characters like Sandrone, Odette, and Cryo Traveler in your team, they can convert the standard Superconduct reaction into Stellar-Conduct. When Stellar-Conduct is triggered, it creates what is called a pole star field. This field will record every single hit from your Cryo or Electro attacks and convert them into stacks, which you can see above your active character's HP bar. These stacks last for 4 seconds and will continuously refresh. For the exact details of the Stellar-Conduct reaction and the buff values you gain per stack, you can see them on the screen. At level 90, Odette has a base attack of 335, which is pretty standard for 5-star characters that scale with attack, neither too low nor exceptionally high. And Odette has 38.4% crit damage ascension bonus. Moving on, these are the materials you will need to fully upgrade Odette. Odette's normal attack talent unleashes up to 5 consecutive strikes. Her charged attack unleashes a single slash, and her plunging attack is identical to other sword characters. We can safely ignore this normal attack talent since it won't be useful. The core of Odette's kit lies within her elemental skill called Slow Dance Phantom Night Trance. When you press her elemental skill, Odette will summon a clone of herself called the Solo Dance Double, or to keep it simple, let's just call it the Ballerina clone. This Ballerina clone stays on the field for 20 seconds, while the skill's cooldown is only 15 seconds, meaning the clone can be permanently active on the field. During these 20 seconds, Odette's Ballerina clone will continuously attack enemies using 2 types of attacks called Plume and Wing. Don't stress too much about these names. Essentially, these Plume and Wing are just standard continuous cryo attacks. While this Ballerina clone is active on the field, Odette's elemental skill transforms into a special elemental skill. If you press it, Odette and her Ballerina clone will performing a dance animation that concludes with a massive cryo nuke damage instance. Now, if you are inside the pole star field, that nuke attack will change into either Stellar-Conduct or Stellar-Swirl damage, depending on which reaction your pole star field recorded. Furthermore, right after the nuke damage from the dance sequence, Odette's continuous Plume and Wing attacks, which initially dealt cryo damage, will convert into stellar damage. But to put it simply, Odette presses E to summon her clone. Her elemental skill changes into the special skill. Immediately, cast that special skill to deal massive stellar damage. After that, you can switch to another character and let Odette's clone continuously attack nearby opponents until its duration ends. In practice, this is actually very simple. For her burst, Odette unleashes 3 rapid slashes, followed by 1 finisher slash. Unfortunately, the entirety of Odette's burst damage does not count as stellar damage. It is just standard cryo damage. Additionally, after casting her burst, Odette grants a 50% stellar damage bonus buff exclusively to herself. This 50% value is only achieved at burst level 10, meaning the stellar bonus will be lower based on your burst talent level. Another thing to note, when Odette uses her burst, she can also summon the Ballerina clone, just like her elemental skill. However, keep in mind that only 1 Ballerina clone can exist on the field, regardless of whether it was summoned via elemental skill or elemental burst. In short, Odette's burst is not mandatory to cast because it only deals regular cryo damage instead of stellar damage, and its stellar damage buff only applies to herself rather than the whole team. You can actually skip or exclude Odette's burst from your team rotation, as casting it can cause a damage drop due to long burst animation. At level 10, the drop isn't actually that significant, but if you take her into the Stygian Dire where every single second counts, skipping her burst is your best option. Odette can convert the superconduct reaction into Stellar-Conduct, and she can also convert the Cryo Sword reaction into Stellar-Swirl. For every 100 attack Odette possesses, the Stellar-Conduct and Stellar-Swirl damage of the entire team will increase by 0.7% up to a maximum of 14%. This maximum buff can be reached once your Odette hits 2000 attack. When Odette summons her solo dance double, she also obtains 4 stacks named Marvelous Splendor. Each stack of Marvelous Splendor increases Odette's own stellar damage by 15%. So if you have 4 stacks, Odette receives a 60% stellar damage bonus buff. The Marvelous Splendor buff lasts until her clone exits the field or when she summons her clone again. Now, the amazing part about this passive is that when Odette has Marvelous Splendor stacks and you switch her out for another character, making Odette as an off-field unit, 1 stack of Marvelous Splendor will be consumed every second and transferred to all other team members. This means, after switching Odette to the off-field position, you only need to wait 4 seconds for all 4 stacks of Marvelous Splendor to be completely transferred from Odette to the other characters. Sandrone, Yai Miko, and Alyosha will then gain a massive 60% stellar damage bonus, significantly boosting their damage output, especially for Sandrone and Yai Miko, who can deal direct Stellar-Conduct damage. Her third passive is a damage buff that benefits Odette herself, and the effect reads, for every 100 attack Odette has, over 1000, her Stellar Glimmer damage is additionally increased by 1.5% of the original damage. She can deal up to 30% more additional damage in this way. To reach that 30% threshold, your Odette must achieve at least 3000 attack. It's okay if you can't reach that 3000 attack because it's only buffing Odette's personal damage. Shows the locations of Snezhnaya's local specialties on the minimap. Also, during Odette's idle animation, you can hold down her elemental skill to make Odette continuously dance. The talent priority is very simple. Your top priority is upgrade her elemental skill to level 9, or you can crown it if you want, followed by leveling her elemental burst to just level 6, since we will rarely use it. The exception is if you plan to play Odette as an on-field DPS. In that case, her burst talent is mandatory to level up to 9, or ideally crowned. This is because a higher burst talent level grants a larger stellar damage buff to Odette herself. As for the normal attack talent, just skip it. Do not upgrade it since we won't be using it. For energy recharge, you can practically skip it since support role Odette relies on her elemental skill. However, if you want to utilize Odette as a team battery, then 130% to 140% ER should be more than enough. Her burst cost is only 60. Make this amount of energy recharges enough if you want to play Odette as an on-field unit. Best artifact set for Odette is the 4-piece new Stellar Support set, which will be released in patch 7.0. The 2-piece provides an 18% attack bonus, and the 4-piece effect grants 50% stellar damage bonus to entire team for 12 seconds. The requirement to trigger this 4-piece effect is that the artifact user must trigger Stellar-Conduct or Stellar-Swirl reaction or deal direct stellar damage. This effect can still be triggered even if the artifact user is off-field. Since this is a team-wide buff artifact, the effects cannot stack, meaning if you have 2 characters in your team running this 4-piece new Stellar Support set, only one of them will be active. Odette herself can easily trigger this effect because her ballerina clone continuously inflicts damage, allowing Odette to keep the artifact buff permanently active. Besides that new stellar support artifact, can we use another sets? Yes, but her performance will drop significantly. If you don't have 4-piece new stellar support yet, or you are stuck endlessly farming it, you can give Odette 4-piece tenacity of the Millilith. Since Odette's ballerina clone counts as elemental skill damage, it can continuously trigger the 4-piece tenacity effect. Alternatively, you can give her mix 2 pieces attack percent artifact, better than nothing. You also can run 4-piece disenchantment to boost Odette's stellar damage. Keep in mind, other than new stellar support set, all of them are temporary placeholder. If you are playing Odette as an on-field DPS, then definitely equip Odette with the 4-piece disenchantment, and you can pass the stellar support set to other character on her team. For main stats, use attack percent sands, attack percent goblet, and crit circlet. For substat priority, go for crit, followed by attack, then ER or EM. For Odette's final stats, aim for a minimum of 2000 attack to maximize her team-wide buffs from passive skills. Next, aim for 70% crit rate for support role Odette. Since her Ascension stats and artifacts doesn't provide crit rate bonus, her crit rate requirement will be high. If your Odette act as on-field DPS, you can aim 60% to 84% crit rate. For crit damage, aim as high as possible, but hit a bare minimum of 160%. ER can be skipped if you play support Odette, or target 130% to 140% if you play her as on-field unit. There is no strict requirement for how much EM you need. Odette is an attack-scaling sub-DPS character. Any weapon with high crit stats or a high base attack will suit her perfectly. Here is the weapon ranking for Odette. Any weapon aren't displayed here is more worse, or it can be newer weapons released after patch 7.0. Let's discuss some of her best options. Odette's best weapon is her own signature, called White Lake Frost Feather. This weapon features 674 base attack with 22.1% crit rate stats. For its effect, if the wielder's elemental skill hits an enemy, the wielder gains 1 stack that grants an 8% attack bonus for 8 seconds. This effect can be triggered every 0.1 seconds and can stack up to 3 times maximum, granting a 24% attack bonus. Once you reach the maximum 3 stacks, the wielder gains 40% crit damage specifically for stellar-type attacks. There is also an additional bonus. While this buff duration is active, every time this weapon user triggers a stellar reaction or deals direct stellar damage, they will restore 4 points energy to themselves. This effect can be triggered once every 3.5 seconds and will continue to trigger even if the weapon user is off-field. This weapon provides insane personal buffs to Odette herself, but unfortunately offers no buffs for your teammates. Her second best weapon option is the Primordial Jade Cutter. Despite having low base attack at 542, it boasts a massive 44.1% crit rate stats. Its passive grants 20% HP increase to the wielder, and from 1.2% of the wielder's total max HP is converted into bonus attack. Even though the HP stat is completely useless for Odette, the extremely high crit rate allows Odette to consistently land critical hits when using this weapon, making it much easier to hit her ideal stat thresholds. Her third best weapon is Absolution, featuring 674 base attack and 44.1% crit damage stats, plus an extra 20% crit damage from its passive. This weapon serves as a sharp, solid stat stick. Just ignore the Bond of Life mechanic on this weapon since it's useless. In certain scenarios, especially if you already have enough crit rate from your artifacts to land consistent crits, Absolution can actually overtake the Primordial Jade Cutter to become her second best weapon. The only issue when using this weapon on Odette is you need a lot of effort for farming artifacts with high crit rate to reach the recommended stats. For F2P option, Odette can use the new craftable weapon releasing in patch 7.0 called Emberwell. This weapon has 510 base attack with 165 elemental mastery substat. When the weapon user triggers an elemental reaction, they gain 16% attack bonus. Furthermore, if the reaction triggered is a stellar reaction, whether it's Stellar-Conduct or Stellar-Swirl, the wielder receives an additional 16% stellar damage bonus. This effect lasts for 16 seconds and will continue to trigger even if the wielder is off-field. This is the effect at Refinement 1, and if you upgrade this weapon to Refinement 5, that 16% attack and 16% stellar damage bonus will double to 32% attack and 32% stellar damage bonus. It is highly recommended to Refining 5 this weapon. For those looking to play an on-field Odette, the weapon priority ranking remains exactly the same as her support build. Odette is a sub-DPS and buffer for stellar reactions that makes she can fit comfortably into any stellar team. As of patch 7.0, her strongest team consists of Sandrone, Yai Miko C1, Odette, and Alyosha C6. This team currently sits at peak of meta, surpassing the dominance of Zibai, Nefer, Mavuika, and other top-tier teams. Since Odette has so many team variations, it's hard to explain them all one by one, as it would take way too long. We will just look at the two main categories, Odette Stellar-Conduct and Odette Stellar-Swirl. For a Stellar-Conduct team, make sure your on-field DPS is equipped with 4-piece disenchantment set. Next, ensure one of the remaining characters is running the new 4-piece Stellar support set. If Odette is on the team, you can just give it to her. These two artifact sets, Disenchantment and the new Stellar support set, are absolute must-haves for your Stellar-Conduct team. For the remaining team slots, you can equip them with artifacts that provide team-wide buffs, such as characters utilizing Tenacity of the Millilith, Noblesse Oblige, or Instructor. Alternatively, if you are running Nicole, you can just give her a 2-piece attack plus 2-piece attack mix, since Nicole doesn't synergize well with the previously mentioned artifact sets. Moving on to Odette in Stellar-Swirl team. As of patch 7.0, her best team consists of Mizuki, Odette, Sucrose, and Cryo Traveler. Mizuki will take the on-field slot using 4-piece Scarlet Proof set. Odette remains off-field with the 4-piece new Stellar support set. Sucrose takes the 4-piece Instructor set, and Cryo Traveler runs 4-piece Viridescent Venerer 2. Quick heads up, as of patch 7.0, the Viridescent Venerer artifact set received a buff. Where it previously only boosted swirl damage by 40%, it has now been upgraded to boost Stellar Swirl damage by 20%. The resistance shred remains unchanged at 40%. For an on-field Odette, you would run her alongside with Yai Miko, Alyosha C6, and either Cryo Traveler or Shiki. Odette's two main drawbacks are her basic attacks do not have cryo infusion, meaning they deal physical damage, and her burst damage is only regular cryo damage, not stellar damage. This is precisely why Odette leans much more toward being played as an off-field unit. Here are some examples of Odette's team comp. Odette's gameplay is incredibly straightforward. Let's take her Stellar Conduct team with Sandrone, Yai Miko, Odette, and Alyosha. The rotation opens with Yai Miko using her elemental skill 3 times, then switching to Odette. Odette casts her elemental skill to summon her clone, and immediately press E again to activate her special skill for nuke damage, then switches to Alyosha. Alyosha uses his elemental skill, followed by his burst. Finally, bring out Sandrone to execute her charged attack combos. For Stellar-Swirl team, including Mizuki, Odette, Sucrose, and Cryo Traveler, the rotation goes like this. Odette uses her elemental skill, then taps it again for the special skill. Switch to Cryo Traveler, use his elemental skill, followed by 1 normal attack and 1 charged attack. Switch to Sucrose and cast her elemental skill. Then switch to Mizuki and use her elemental skill until its duration ends. Lastly, switch back to Sucrose to use her elemental skill and repeat the rotation from the beginning. As you can see, even across 2 completely different team archetypes, Odette's entire job is just tapping her elemental skill twice, and that's all we need. Odette is a stellar sub-DPS unit. Even though her hit intervals aren't incredibly fast, her buffing capabilities and her passive that converts basic reactions into their stellar versions are truly terrifying. If we compare her to Yai Miko, Yai Miko's capability as a sub-DPS in Stellar Conduct teams is unbeatable. She remains the strongest to this day. Furthermore, if your Yai Miko is C1 or C2, she can also act as a team buffer. However, that doesn't change the fact that Yai Miko on her own cannot deal stellar conduct damage or convert a standard superconduct reaction into stellar conduct. Because of this, Yai Miko absolutely needs a character whose passive can convert reactions into stellar conduct. As of patch 7.0, there are only 3 characters capable of doing this: Sandrone, Odette, and Cryo Traveler. Sandrone already take the on-field slot, while Odette is an off-field character blessed with powerful buffs. Cryo Traveler sits right in the middle. He can act as an on-field DPS, but aren't as strong as Sandrone, and he can act as an off-field DPS too, but not in Odette level. Therefore, if you own both Yai Miko and Odette, you can bring them into any team comp to act as the wheelchair for the stellar conduct reaction. You can run whoever you want as the on-field DPS, whether it's Sandrone, Ryothasli, Sino, Cryo Traveler, or even characters who cannot trigger stellar reactions like Lohan's Stellar Conduct. Odette's constellations are all incredibly strong. If you are wondering whether to prioritize her signature weapon or her constellations, the answer is clearly to secure her constellations first. Aim for C1 and C2, then stop. After that, you can go for her signature weapon, or push straight to C6. Let's break them down simply. C1 is highly worth chasing because when you use Odette's special skill, where she spins with her shadow and lands that massive nuke damage, it will unleash an extra hit of stellar damage with high multiplier as additional damage. More importantly, it upgrades Odette's Marvelous Splendor passive. Originally, when Odette summons her ballerina clone, she receives 4 stacks, with each stack providing a 15% stellar damage bonus. At C1, the maximum stack count increases by 2, meaning you can reach up to 6 stacks maximum. When you switch Odette to the off-field position, these 6 Marvelous Splendor stacks will be transferred to the other characters in her team. Since each stack holds a 15% stellar damage bonus, these 6 stacks mean your team gets buffed by a massive 90% stellar damage bonus. On top of that, we know at C0 Odette's Marvelous Splendor stacks decreased by 1 stacks for every 1 seconds. At C1, it will immediately consume 2 Marvelous Splendor stacks from Odette every second. This means after switching Odette out, you only need to wait 3 seconds for all 6 stacks to be fully transferred to your other team members. If you secure Odette's C1, you will see a massive increase in your team's total damage output. Odette's C2 adds an extra effect to Marvelous Splendor. while at C1 Marvelous Splendor provides a 15% stellar damage bonus per stack up to 6 stacks. At C2, each stack of Marvelous Splendor will also grant a 7% attack bonus per stack, totaling 42% attack buff at 6 stacks. And this Marvelous Splendor buff can be enjoyed by the off-field characters in your team, making this C2 Odette function similarly to Nicole in terms of providing team-wide attack buffs. Furthermore, as long as the ballerina clone is on the field, it will shred enemy cryo and electro resistance by 20% when your team is in the Radiant Stellar-Conduct state, or it will shred enemy cryo and anemo resistance by 20% when your team is in the Radiant Stellar-Swirl state. C3 increases her elemental skill level by 3. This is great for boosting Odette's nuke damage, but it's just okay. Nice to have, but not mandatory to chase. Odette's C4 is very interesting and completely changes her gameplay and her stat requirements. In short, C4 upgrades Odette's burst talent effect. Before C4, Odette's burst initially provides 50% stellar damage bonus exclusively to herself. Now at C4, her ultimate will also grant a 25% stellar damage bonus to all teammates, exactly half of the buff Odette receives herself from her burst. Additionally, after Odette unleashes her burst, whenever a character on the team deals damage, Odette will unleash a coordinated attack every 3.5 seconds that deals stellar damage. Once you unlock Odette's C4, her combo changes from E plus E to Q plus E, so your entire team got benefit from the stellar damage bonus. Because casting her burst becomes mandatory, Odette's ER requirement will also increase to around 130% to 140%, so she can consistently burst in every single rotation. Because of this change, it becomes crucial to secure Odette's signature weapon before reaching C4. Her signature weapon features an energy restoration effect that makes it much easier to spamming her burst, while providing 40% crit damage buff for stellar-type attacks, which perfectly complement the coordinated attacks from Odette's C4. C5 increases her elemental burst level by 3. Honestly, the damage increase isn't that significant. C5 serves mostly as a stepping stone to her C6. While all of Odette's constellations are excellent, her C6 is truly the cherry on top. Her C6 upgrades the Marvelous Splendor passive effect again. Previously, after Odette summons the ballerina clone, she gains 6 stacks of Marvelous Splendor at C1, and when we switch Odette out, those stacks gradually decrease and transferred to her team. Now, at C6, when you switch Odette to another character, the Marvelous Splendor stacks on Odette will not decrease at all, yet the characters in your team will still receive those stacks anyway. With this, your entire team, including Odette herself, will receive the full 90% stellar damage bonus. When combined with all of Odette's previous constellations, the 90% bonus she now retains makes Odette a truly terrifying nuker and continuous damage dealer. To top it all, C6 Odette grants 25% stellar damage elevation buff to all team members except herself, while Odette herself receives 20% stellar damage elevation buff. Elevation buff is a special kind of damage boost that is calculated independently and multiple your output damage. Is she worth to pull? If you already have stellar DPS characters, pulling Odette will act as the perfect final piece for your premium stellar team. Especially for those of you who main Ryothsley and Cyno. They require at least one character on the team who can convert the standard Superconduct into Stellar-Conduct. Up until now, we've had to slot Sandrone into Ryothsley or Cyno teams, but since they are all on-field DPS units, Sandrone only work as a dead slot, because she doesn't have off-field ability, and we still need her passive effect. With Odette acting as a sub-DPS, buffer, and stellar reaction converter, your Ryothsley or Cyno will no longer rely with Sandrone's presence on the team. This allows their total team damage to skyrocket. You could even say that Odette's arrival successfully brings Sandrone, Rio, and Cyno to the peak of meta as the strongest on-field DPS characters. If you have Lohen and want to try his Stellar-Conduct variant, owning both Odette and Yaimiko to support Lohen is absolutely important. Missing even one of them will cause a damage drop to Lohan's team. If I don't own a single stellar DPS character, can I still pull for Odette? The answer is yes, you can. Support characters like Odette typically have a long life in current meta, and the fact that she is Cryo unit makes her even more versatile. She can join easily into Stellar-Conduct teams, Stellar-Swirl teams, or any new Cryo-based reactions in future updates. As of patch 7.0, you can easily run Cryo Traveler as your on-field DPS with Odette supporting him, or vice versa, running Odette as the DPS and Cryo Traveler as the support. As of patch 7.0, Odette's best teams still revolve around the Stellar-Conduct team. If you own Mizuki, you can also pull Odette to maximize her Stellar-Swirl capabilities. Alternatively, you can pull Odette now and grab a free Mizuki from the free 5-star selector during the anniversary, or simply wait for release of new Stellar DPS characters in upcoming patches. At least you already secured a premium support unit for those reactions. If you love to play against Stellar teams, pull Odette. If you don't play Stellar teams, you can safely skip her. Odette is the Columbina of Stellar because both of them can buff the entire team and also a flexible unit for every team in their mechanic. In conclusion, whether she is played as an off-field unit or an on-field unit, and whether she is equipped with her signature weapon or an F2P alternative, Odette consistently gives massive amount of total damage to her team, and that is exactly what makes her incredibly worth bringing home. Or, quite simply, if you love Odette's design, personality, lore, or anything else about her, just go ahead and pull for her. Not every pulling decision has to be strictly meta-oriented. That wraps up our character guide video for Odette. Thank you so much for watching, and happy grinding, travelers.